Hey, how's everyone doing today? This is Josh Noel with PremiumBeat, and in this After Effects video, we're going to take a look at all the different layer styles inside of After Effects. Now, what I mean by layer styles is the layer styles that you can apply to your titles or any other layer inside of After Effects, and specifically looking at the menu under Layer, Layer Styles, and boom, you have drop shadow, inner shadow, glows, bevels, and color effects that you may have not ever seen in After Effects because it's kind of a hidden menu. However, you may have heard of layer styles from Photoshop. You may have used these quite frequently, or maybe you did stumble across this menu in After Effects. But the point of this video is to introduce you to each of these styles within the layer styles menu. So here we are in our tutorial composition. All we have is text layer, it's just white text, hard to see on this background, but we're gonna go ahead and change that up in a bit. So the first thing you want to do, if your layer selected, you want to go to your layer, layer styles, and you want to grab one of these effects. Now, I want to start with the gradient overlay to kind of get you introduced to this, and this will help make our title stand out from the background. We can open up the menu here, and you can see we have our parameters down here. And the first thing you want to do when you do the gradient overlay is click on Edit Gradient, and you'll see two color stops here. You can of course add more color stops, and that will change your color a little bit. But we can come here to the first color stop, and we can kind of select a cool color here. Maybe I'll do like a nice, dark blue. And then we click on the next color stop and we can change that color. I'm going to keep it up black. I like that. Click OK. And from here you can change, and there's other controls in here that you can affect that I don't think makes sense for the tutorial, but you can change the angle if you want to. I'm going to keep it at 90 degrees. You can reverse it, so the black can be on the bottom and the blue can be at the top. It's really up to you. And we can even offset this to really, manipulate where we want this gradient to start at. And of course you can set the style, so you get linear, you can set to radial. Not really great for titles, but for like a background, this can look fine. And that's how you kind of use the gradient overlay effect, just very easily. And now next thing we can do is go to layer styles, and maybe we'll take a look at the bevel and emboss. So this is one of the cooler layer styles in here, but you can see that you automatically get this to be more, I guess, three-dimensional. But this style is with the inner bevel, and I like using the outer bevel. And by selecting the outer bevel, you get a little bit more, three-dimensional on the outside of it. Now, what we need to do is probably increase the depth here so it gets a little bit thicker. And you can see now just a little before and after. Boom, there's that. And you can see the outer bevel. Let me actually turn off the background real quick. So you can definitely see that 3D effect going in there. And this can be really cool to, make your titles look 3D in a way. And of course you can decrease the size or increase it depending on what you're looking to do. And they'll kind of, clean it up a little bit if you decrease it. And just a very subtle 3D look in there, and that looks really good. And now you have some other settings here, so you can change the highlight color. You see the background here is white, but I would keep these settings the same unless you want to change the color a little bit. But I'm going to keep it at white just to kind of keep that glossiness of that background. You also have the shadow, so of course down here is black. So you can change the colors down here, change the opacity, and of course manipulate the angle and all that. So that's the bevel and emboss settings in a nutshell. And for our next layer styles, I'll go straight up with the stroke. So for the stroke, it's just going to outline your title, so we can turn all these other ones off. You can see we just get a stroke around our title. So the stroke just simply as an outline, and I can come over here and just change the color if I want. So maybe I'll do that's fine, a pink or whatever. Turn the background back on. And this just adds an overall layer of depth. Now you can see automatically there's a drop shadow added behind our title, and this is really cool to add some more separation between your title or layer with the background. So you can increase the opacity if you want. You can increase the distance or decrease it. One thing I like to do is increase the size, and that kind of softens up the drop shadow a little bit, and that helps create an extra layer of depth between it. So a little before and after between this is the drop shadow. It's really interesting, and I think it's nice, and maybe we'll just continue to increase the size on it. Whether you decide to keep the drop shadow close or far away, either way adds a nice separation between the background and your title. So next, let's take a look at some of the other shadows in here. So if we come back here and we take a look at, say, the inner shadow, this will add a shadow, in the middle of your text, and you can control where the shadow is at. So we'll come here, open up the shadow. You can see that we can, increase the opacity of this shadow, and it's going to add more interior depth inside our title. So if we want, we can increase the size by a touch, and you can see that, overlaps more in the title. And I think it's a really nice touch to it. And pretty much like all the other settings, you can do, just manipulate the angle and the direction of the shadow, and that's simply what you get, and it adds some nice touch to it. Let's add a outer glow to this. So this is kind of like a drop shadow in its way, but this kind of just gives you a nice color in here. So maybe we'll come here and we'll select that pink sort of color, and we'll come over here, we increase the size, and there's a very light shadow in there, and then we can, and you see a very nice slight outer glow to our title, and that looks pretty nice. And then we can even do a inner glow as well. So, just extra depth. So, we have this, magenta outline going on here. We can supplement that by going ahead and selecting that, magenta there again. And we can just continue to, add to this. So very similar things. You have the size, the distance. It's all very relative with everything else. This time maybe you can change the blend mode to whatever you want. I'll go set it to normal so I can see more of that glow in there. And, there's that. And then we'll take a look at satin. And then we add satin, and it really just darkens the title a little bit, adds a little bit more depth in here. Now, satin's not one of my favorite effects, but if I switch the invert to off, it kind of darkens the edges a little bit. And we can, mess with the size and adjust the distance as we see fit. Increase the opacity, and you just get a very interesting texture to this. So a little before and after, it gets pretty interesting. And then lastly, we'll take a look at the last layer style, which we haven't taken a look at yet, and that's the color overlay. And I'm not going to keep this on for this, but with a color overlay, it simply just overlays one color of your choice. You come here and change the color of whatever you want. And I don't really think it's that good. It's basically the gradient overlay, just a single color. And I'm not sure really the need for it, because if you're doing a title, you can just change your color over here. But simply we'll go through the breakdown of each of these. So this is our text originally, white on a bright background, so obviously doesn't look good. So maybe the first thing you do is turn on a drop shadow to help separate that from the background, and that looks okay. So then maybe you go, what, let's go ahead and separate this a little bit further. Let's do a bevel and emboss, and you get a very slight adjustment there, and that looks professional. Obviously, so the white text is not good enough, so maybe you do a gradient overlay and create a little bit of style to your title, and that starts to look really good. But perhaps you want to make this pop a little bit more, so perhaps you add that stroke in there, and then you go for the inner shadow and outer glow, and then you start adjusting all those glows in there. And then lastly, you add that satin to really make that come to life. And of course, messing with the noise, you get some interesting textures in there. Maybe not so much that one, but as you can see, you can just add a nice little texture in it to it if you really want to do that. There's a ton of variations in which you can create with these layer styles. This video was just to introduce you to these layer styles, and it's definitely take some time to experiment with these layer styles to create some awesome text or any other layer inside of After Effects. So thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope you were able to take away several techniques from it. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. For more tutorials, please be sure to check out our blog at PremiumBeat.com. And if you're in the need for royalty-free music, we have a huge library full of great music for your projects. So if you have the time, I invite you to check us out at PremiumBeat.com. And once again, thank you for watching this video, and this has been Joshua Noel from PremiumBeat.com.